Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the JBDC Virtual Biz Zone. My name is Sansia Campbell, and I'm the Public Relations and Events Coordinator here at the JBDC. As we join you this morning, we are going to be completing our business strategy series. As you know, last week we focused on negotiation, and this week we are going to look at something, well, I don't want to say even more important because they're all important, but pricing strategy is something that is crucial to any entrepreneur, especially if you're selling something, whether it's a product or a service. You have to know those important elements that you need to include to ensure that you are getting the right value for whatever it is that you're selling, and you have to know how to price your own sweat equity and all of that. So we have a very exciting presenter joining us this morning. Very knowledgeable lady, very astute in terms of how she presents and all of the things that she will have to share with us. And her name is Opal Levy, and she is the founder of the Sisters Inc. Incorporated. She is a powerhouse individual who wears numerous hats. She's co-founder and senior management consultant at Sisters Inc. Jamaica Limited. She specializes in strategic planning and business transformation, and works assiduously to build the capacity of our local entrepreneurs. And I remember when I met her some years ago and she did a session for us. Excellent, excellent. The outcome was just so good when we had that pitch perfect session way back. Well, it's not even so way back in the day, but due to COVID, everything seems so far back. You know what I mean? But really excellent session on pitching. So this morning she's here to share with us on pricing strategy. And just before I hand over to Opal, I just want to let everyone know that the session is being recorded. And so if you have to leave, or if you know someone that wants to be a part of the session, but for whatever reason they won't be able to, the session will be recorded and it will be available on the JBDC's YouTube channel, which is at JBDC Jamaica. So you can just simply subscribe, and when it's uploaded, you will get a notification, right? Feel free to drop your questions in the chat, be as interactive as possible, and let's go and enjoy the session, which promises to be very, very informative this morning. So it's over to you, Opal, at this time.
Okay, thank you so much, Sansia. Good morning, everybody. I see a large contingent of business champions on the call today. Um, so far, we have about 21 persons. Welcome, everybody. As Sansia said, this is such an important topic because to be ready for you, I also went and prepared. And as I'm not just going to take the information from my head and my experiences that I've had in my over 25 years of experience in the market, but I had to go and do some reading. And guys, it was so amazing and powerful, the information that I found. And I want to share a little bit with you today. And then, when the JBDC is now organizing their workshops, you can jump on because you would have had that precursor or that information, right at the cusp of your brain. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming on. And let us start. Okay, let me make sure that I have up the right screen. All right, so as you know, I'm Opal Levy. I was introduced by Francis just now, and there are five things that I want us to see session today. Francis, so you can put your questions in the box, in the chat box, or you can we can have a little session at the end of it where we can go through some of the questions. Okay. So today we want to look at how pricing influences your market position, how to shift to value pricing, which I find is very, very important and the most important strategy, how to use pricing methods to set the optimal price, how to increase prices without losing revenue, and how to set your price strategy. Now, as I said before, pricing is so important to every single business. All right. So if network and
Yeah.
it can be a little painful.
Yes, this is great. You can proceed now.
All right. Okay. So as I was saying, that it is, in my experience with working with quite a number of entrepreneurs, I find that, we tend to just put on a margin onto the cost of production. And then what that does, it does not give us any opportunity to grow and to become profitable, maybe our operate. So I want us today to have your pen and paper so we can write down some important stuff. And then, as I said, if there are any questions you have, we can then discuss it, right? All right, so Darwin said it's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, is the one that is most adaptable to change. And as entrepreneurs, we have to be adaptable to change, all right? And successful entrepreneurs master not just sales and marketing, but you also have to be financially savvy. I find that a lot of entrepreneurs go, yeah, man, I can sell my product and I can go on social media and I can do my marketing, but we close the door on finance. And we can't do that because that is where the money is. And so we have to make sure that we understand how we're making money. Now, with pricing, it is so critical to the business operations because it can determine whether we are successful or whether we fail. And the two challenges that presents to us is, if it's too high, is it that not enough people are going to buy? And then if we're pricing too low, are we leaving money on the table? So you're not getting enough persons. Do you think you're pricing too high or you're not getting enough money on the table, right? Now, there's not enough money on the table, right? Now, um, we think a lot about loss aversion, right? And it pushes us really as entrepreneurs to want to charge a little bit amount of money for our products, right? And many times we don't revive or review our pricing over a period of time. And that is critical to our success. So I want us to think about our own businesses as I'm talking today, to figure out, am I charging too high or am I charging too low? And we can explore that as we go a little further. And then, how many more customers could I have if I change my pricing? How much money am I losing because of the pricing that I have? So we have to be able to answer these questions. Now, as Santia mentioned when we just started, and I have reiterated, that pricing is very, very important. It determines our market position. That means who will buy from us. Because guys, that if you sell your product high, some persons will go, no, 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 that is too expensive, and I'm not seeing the value. All right. It also determines the sales and distribution channels you use. So who will be carrying your product? Because there are some distributors that don't carry the products for the masses. They only carry products for the upper and the higher socioeconomic classes. And then you have the reverse. So you also have to be very careful as to how you choose your distribution channel. And that comes out of the pricing of your product. Obviously, your company's growth and adoption rate is going to sing enough for you to make a profit. The company is not going to grow. Your financial soundness, that's a no-brainer. And you see, I can't be charging a price and the customer not seeing the value, and they're getting very poor service. And we see that happening so many times, right? So in other words, pricing affects every relevant aspect of our business. So we have to be, guys, these five things is really what makes up your company: your market position, your sales and distribution, your growth, your financial soundness, and your customer service. So if your pricing is not right there with it, then, or if your pricing is not correct, which takes a while to evolve, you will suffer negative consequences if these five things are not accurate, right? Now, it is so important for us to use multiple tactics. We can't just use price. So we can't say, this is my cost of production, and I'm just going to add a margin to it. No, right? So setting the price for a product is a constant challenge. Even for me, who have been in business for a very long time, setting the right price has always been a challenge. right? No, unless you're selling a commodity. So you're selling bottled water. You have your cost of production, you add your operating, and then you put on your margin and you're good to go. So that might be a little easy. But for some of us who offer services, because I see some service entrepreneurs on the line, or some of us who offer complicated products, or some of us who offer IT solutions, it's not that easy. And so the value of your company offers is unique to a certain degree. So everybody is pricing has to be reflective of what it is that you bring to the table. All right. Now, you can do a number of things as you're getting into the market. Some persons say going at a high price, others persons say going at a low price. Most entrepreneurs that I work with always want to going at a lower price and work the way up, right? Now, it all depends on the market that you're in. Okay, you can decide to start with low and gradually go up. You can decide to start with high and gradually come down until you find that little sweet spot that makes it right for you. So it all depends on the business that you're operating, the marketing that you're operating in, and the industry for you to decide exactly where or what strategy you employ. Okay. Now, it is important to understand that there always has to be a constant review of your pricing. Now, you cannot just look at your competitor and say, oh, my competitor is charging this, and so this is what I'm going to charge. You can't do that, because what can happen sometimes is that you go into a price war. And when you have a price war, the customer wins and you fail. Because all that happens is that somebody who has more money keeps pushing the price further and further down until they completely wipe you out of the market. So it is important for you. And guys, you see how much I'm stressing this before getting into the pricing. It is so important for you to review your pricing and understand your pricing strategy along the way. All right. Um, Now, although we've been stressing the importance of pricing, it's also important to understand and sell your product. You also have to have, and I'm sure the JBDC will do some workshop on this if they haven't done it yet, on your sales strategy and creating that funnel and looking at your lead generation. Those things are critical to your business existing. However, pricing all of that is also equally important. But I don't want us to miss out on the sales strategy, because that itself is important. You have to, when you have your sales strategy, you have to go after your niche, your target audience. And every time I do a presentation, I talk about the importance of your target audience. There are some people who are so crazy to believe that they're everybody. You cannot market to everybody or you're going to fail. You have to have a target audience that you're going after, and you have to communicate and talk with and interact with these people so you know exactly what it is that they want. And importantly, what problem are you solving for them and how much they are willing to pay for the solution. Because that is the essence of pricing. Because you can find a problem that is existing in the market. You come up with a solution. Are not. So whatever solution you come up with, your customer must be willing to pay the price for it. So that is why it requires a lot of conversation and engagement with your customers to understand. Now, in my reading, I found this very interesting fun fact. It says, of all the things you can spend time on tweaking, pricing will yield the best return. Getting it right is a big deal. A price increase of 1% results in 11% increase in profit. A price increase of 1% results in 11% increase in profit. So you see how important pricing is? It can really make or break a company. And if you can do a price increase of 2 or 3%, just imagine the impact that it can have on your profit. But you have to make sure your sales strategy is right. You have to make sure that you're communicating with your clients and that they're willing to pay for the solution that you have to their problem. All right. Again, we're going to look at looking a little bit at the marketing side of this. It says price is last but not the least of the 4 P's. Now I know everybody on the call here are quite brilliant in marketing, right? And so you know the marketing mix is of the 4 P's: the place, product, promotion, and pricing. All right. Now you can have your place, you can have your product, you can have your promotion. But you see, if your pricing is off, that's the hardest one to fix, right? And it is so important to the success of the business that you have to make sure that it is right. Okay, so this translates into the right products, satisfying needs, sold at the right price, at the right place, using the most suitable promotion. The cost of your product or service is the amount you spend to produce it. Now, guys, don't miss these 3 last sentences. The price is your financial reward for providing the product or service to the market. But listen to this now. The value is what your customer believes the product or service is worth. Let's back up a little bit. The price is your financial reward for providing, but the value is what your customer believes the product or service is worth. Now, guys, if the customer does not see the value in what it is that you're doing, they're not going to pay the price. And value is not benefits. And we'll talk about that. Sorry, your value is not the features. We'll talk about that in a little bit, okay? But the value is what the customer will put their hand in their pocket and take out the money and pay you, no matter what price you put on the product. And if you look at a Seiko watch and a Rolex, a Seiko watch is more accurate than a Rolex. However, a Seiko watch will cost 300 US and a Rolex will cost 15,000 US. It is the value that the customer places on the product that determine how much they will pay for it. So you have to make sure that the customer is seeing the value, because many times we are disconnected from the value. Oh, I'm selling a soap and it is, but what is the value to the customer? You know, what will the customer be willing to forego to buy this particular product? Those are some of the questions that we need to ask ourselves, right? So that's very, very critical. Now, for me, I always encourage make sure that you have some objectives as to what it is that you want to achieve. So you have to have a plan in place, right? Now, I want you to look through these objectives here and think about your own company, what it is that you're doing, and see which one of these objectives is what it is that you're trying to achieve. Is it survival? Are you just trying to break even and make some money? Is that your strategy? Are you doing a short-term profit maximization process where you really just want to make some money in the short term? Are you looking to maximize your profit margin? Do you want to be market leader? Do you want to say, I must be the market leader in this particular product? I must be the market leader in this particular service. Am I trying to grab market share? Am I just stepping into the space and I want to make sure that I'm able to eat up as much market share as possible? Is it a quick use? And am I creating a differentiation strategy? I want us to think a little bit about this. What is your strategy when you're setting your price? Because this is also critical in the process. All right. As Cynthia said, that this for those of you taking pictures, that actually look at this to make sure you determine your pricing strategy. But this is very critical. Okay. All right. Now, remember I spoke to you about features versus value just now. 2 critical questions. So remember the objectives that we just looked at. After you have decided on that, you now need to ask yourself 2 important questions. One, why would people pay for my services or products? The second one is what value will customer derive from my offering? Why would people pay for my services or product? And what value will customer derive from my offering? Now, I can't stress these two questions enough, because sometimes we believe that because we understand the product and we understand what it is that we're taking to the table, that we believe that our customers also see that. And that, guys, is the reason why companies fail. Every single company fails because of a lack of sales, nothing else. From a lack of sales. There might be underlying problems, but it is from a lack of sales. And so the question then is, why would people pay for my services or my products? Why should I go into my pocket and take up money and pay for your product? The next thing is, what value will my customer derive from my offering? How will it contribute to my customer? How will it make them better? Right? These are some of the questions as entrepreneurs that we need to ask ourselves, even when we're offering a service. How will this service make my customer better? And guys, the only way you're going to know that is if you talk to your customer. I can't stress that enough. It is so critical for you to talk with your customers. All right, now we're going to step into the different types of pricing. Your cost plus pricing. Now, this is the pricing that a lot of people use, and it is so wrong if this is all you use. So the cost plus pricing is really taking your cost and adding a margin to it, and then you go to the market and you sell. But many times we run into trouble with our cost plus pricing. We are not saying to you that cost plus is not important, okay? So it says here there's a major objection to cost plus pricing. The customer is absent in this process. Forget about your internal cost as a foundation of the pricing strategy. Only use it to start the pricing process, because I have seen so many times where when we come to a place where we're now ready to go to market with our product, and we look around and we realize that the customer is not picking up the value and the price is a little too high or the price is a little too low, we have to almost go back to the drawing table and go, what can I do to reduce the cost so it can come out cheaper to the customer? Or what is that value? Soon get there though, but what is that value that I'm offering so I can charge a higher cost? Okay, so the cost plus pricing is important, but it is just at the beginning of the process. That's just the start of the process. So let's go to that again. The cost plus pricing is that you look at your cost of production and you add a margin. Everybody knows that because most people do it that way, right? So you add a markup of 20% or whatever, you add it to the price, and then that becomes your selling price. And I'm challenging you today, don't stop there. That's just the start of the process, okay? Now there's another type of pricing that is called target return pricing. And these are used in special situations. For example, you want to make the cost of the product and you sell it. But these are usually for sale events or one-off situations where we do a target return pricing. So this is what we want to make. This is how much we're going to sell it for, and we're going to do all the marketing activity behind it so that we can get this revenue. All right. So as I said, we usually do this for if you're having you have some products and you want to move them out of the space, etc., etc. This is what the target return pricing is, right? Now, this value-based pricing, guys, is now the ultimate. This is where we all want to get to. All right. So basically, we do the first part, which is the cost plus pricing. But then we have to then say, what is the perceived value of my item in the market? And there are a number of ways in doing that. So it says most businesses that launch a new product or service face the issue that the perceived value of a product or service falls below its objective value. The perceived value should be equal or greater than the price that will be charged. The perceived value is communicated by effective marketing building and a coherent branding around the product. As I spoke to you about the Rolex and the Seiko watch, many times it is a perceived value that drives the sale and obviously then drives your pricing. So you have to make sure that whatever your client believes is a perceived value, your price either has to be there or just a little tips below. Otherwise, listen to how powerful this is. If somebody perceives your product to be of a high value and the price is way below, they're going to walk away from it. Let me say that again. If a client perceives your product to be of a high value, but the price is too low, they're going to walk away from it because they believe that it is not of the value that they perceive it to be. We have to be very careful, and that is why I keep saying talk to your customers. There's a gentleman, can't pronounce his name right now, but he says it is so critical for you to ask your customer what price or what value do they perceive of your particular item, right? And you do your different analysis and stuff, and you come up with the right price after you would have been able to cover your cost, right? So you have to be able, you must communicate the value. If the customer value, perceived value is not lining up with yours, guess what? You have to go back to the table with your product. You have to go back to the table with the product. Or you have to then look at how can I tweak my marketing engagement, right? So that I'm able to push that value to the client. For example, guys, when you look at a Benz, right? And you look at a Honda Accord. The truth is, you look at when they compare year for year, most of them have similar features, you know. Most of the cars have similar features, but there's a perceived value in the Mercedes Benz. And because it is of that perceived value, then people are willing to pay for it. If the Mercedes Benz is carrying the same price as a Honda Accord, the purchaser is going to walk away because they're saying, that's not what I'm thinking it's supposed to be. So something must be wrong with it. So it's all about the perceived value. And the perceived value can come about based on how you market it and how you brand it. And we have so many examples of that. When you look at, for example, some banks that have their customer in tiers, you pay for your you pay a small amount for the transaction cost. And why I say small amount is because I'm going to give you the opposite. Just pay a small amount for your transaction cost, you do your transaction and you leave the bank. Then you have another tier that is right in the middle where the customers pay more for the transaction, but they get a little bit more service. So they go in and they get a cup of tea, they get a little water, and they sit down and they wait. And then now you have those in the private bankings of this world where the persons now go out, and so they go out now to the customer and they pay like $500 a month. Now imagine the amount of complaints that you've heard of on talk shows about people paying $50 to $100 for bank charges versus somebody paying $500 is a perceived value of the offering that makes a difference. So guys, when you are pricing your product, make sure you have your price, your cost, make sure you have your markup, and make sure you have a good understanding of the perceived value. I've spent a lot of time on this because it is so critical to the pricing matrix. You have to understand the perceived value. All right? Now, let us look a little bit about the benefit of the value-based pricing. And I'm very biased towards it because I think it is the ultimate, right? All right, so it's clear that the value-based pricing is more complex and time-consuming compared to cost-plus pricing, right? You can agree to that because the value-based pricing now allows you to step into the space of having the conversation with the customer, doing some analysis, understand your perceived value, create your marketing strategy and your branding about the perceived value, and then your price, right? So it's a lot more complex. The real benefit of value-based pricing is forcing businesses to shift the focus from your price to your value. All right. So when somebody says, I am going to engage Opal to do something, they are not saying to themselves, oh, I am concerned about the price that Opal is charging. They are more saying, what is the value to my organization? How much will this session or this workshop help me to make 11% more in my profit? How much will this workshop allow me to reduce my cost so that I can make more revenue? How much will this workshop allow me to look at the value of what I am offering and tweak my marketing and my branding strategy to reflect that? That is how customers look at your value. And that is how you shift away from a pricing mechanism to a value mechanism. It's healthier to build a business around perceived value because the gap between the perceived value and the price is the incentive to buy. So if you value and I'm charging you 80,000, right? They're saying, whoa, that's incentive. If I value my thing at 20,000, persons are going to go, no, something is wrong with that. There's no substance there. She never did any research for this. When you have identified your target market and you're going after the right customer. And many times we miss that, and that is so critical. All right. Now, cost plus pricing provides an incentive to sell. Value-based pricing provides an incentive to buy. Look at the difference, guys. When you sell, you're pushing the product. When you buy, the customer is taking the product from you. I am sure we all want to be in a space where our customers are incentivized to buy and not that we're incentivized to sell. Because when you're incentivized to buy, when there's incentives to buy, there's very little that you need to do because the customer is saying, no man, I have to call Opal. I need to buy this soap because look at my skin. I need to do this. I need to listen to this person because they understand the value that you're bringing to the table. So it is so, guys, when I was reading, I read about 4 books for this. When I was reading through and I coupled it with the experience that I have, I was like, this is so spot on. And this is where a lot of persons miss because we're always pushing to sell and we don't have an incentive for the customer to buy. How do we, many times, oh my God, we hear it with customers complaining every minute. And we see people with placard outside financial institutions or wherever else because we have left the customer out of the equation. And a lot of persons don't realize this or don't understand the importance of this. My sister always said, God bless her. So she said, whenever you see a customer, you're supposed to say, ching ching. But many times we leave the customer out of the equation. And so the customer is on a different level than you are. And the customer is the only judge and decider of the value of your product or service. Imagine that. So if they are the only decider, then what to them? We have to understand value. And if they don't see the value, we have to go back to the table because it means that our solution is really not a solution to the problem that they're having. And guys, I have goosebumps just talking about this, because I just find this just so important for all of us as we, as we develop our companies, and as we move into a state of success, but to understand, and we can understand the true value of the service. To the companies fail because customers do not understand the value that they brought to the table, and so they don't buy. And so it is to be able to understand that. Now, there's another type of pricing that is called psychological pricing. And this is important because for me to share with you today, because there are many scenarios that will present itself. For example, as I said before, when we look at the target pricing, that sometimes you're running a sale, sometimes you're in a position where you really need to get rid of inventory. Sometimes your customers are equating your value to current players in mind. We have to bear in mind. So psychological pricing is important. And the first one is positioning. If you want to be the low-cost leader, you must be priced lower than your competition. If you want to send a signal of high quality, you should probably be priced higher than most of your competition. And let me give you an example of both scenarios. When I was at courts many, many years ago, many of you on the call, way too young to know, I actually worked in their purchasing department, and I was in an ad that says the court's price is the lowest price always on furniture and appliances. For those of you who are old, you remember my voice, right? Because courts was in the space as the low cost leader, right? But courts is large enough to run that risk, that if I am able to go elsewhere and match the price or get a lower price, courts will match that price. But they were too large a company to be able to fail because of that strategy. But imagine a small company saying, oh, we're the lowest cost leader. You're going to run out of business, because somebody like courts can take you out of business. So you can't, it all depends, right? And the amount of resources that you can push behind it. So being a low cost leader might not necessarily be the strategy that you want to employ if you're a small company. Now, let us look at another example. So there's another furniture company in Kingston that's on Constant Spring Road that portrays the idea of perceived value. That means when people go there to buy furniture, they say, oh, that furniture better than courts, because the value is higher. They see a better value there. As a part of the purchasing team, I had to, we have to go across all the different competitors to see what they're selling. And they had the exact table as courts, but courts was sold at like about 69,999, and theirs were going like at 399,999. And she sold out, and courts, the table that courts could not move. We couldn't sell it. But hers was selling out at 39,999, at 399,999. You know why? Because there's a perceived value that the table is good. And what happened also is that there's a niche market that she attracts. And the table had a distressed look. I don't know how many of you know the distressed furniture that almost look like it have chichi eating it, that kind of distressed look. Right. That was how the table was. She sold out. Courts couldn't sell the table. And so you see how, oh, this is so exciting. And so that is why you have to know and understand where you are in the market for you to come up with your pricing strategies. Because if you don't understand that, you'll make mistakes, which we have made many times, but you have to learn from it. Popular price points. There are certain price points or specific prices at which people become much more willing to buy a certain type of product. Okay, so if you say, okay, most persons buy $60. If you come into the market, you can't really sell at 120 on the road. You can't do that because people are going to say, why your water different from water? Because there are some people who might be water connoisseurs, and so they'll be willing to pay a lot more for Fiji. But the large majority of persons that water is targeting is not the majority that goes for the Fiji water. So anybody who steps into this space to compete against water, that means you're to the masses, they have to be within the same price point. Understand that? So therefore your product then you will then have to go around and look for products that are similar in offering to yours, and then you just use that price point. No, the thing with that is that if that price comes out below your cost plus pricing, you know what you have to do? You have to go back to your cost of production and find ways to reduce that. If it works out to be more, kudos to you, because then at least your margin becomes higher and there's that perceived value that has already been created by the market. So you now can charge for that. All right. And then fair pricing. There's simply a limit to what consumers perceive as fair pricing. If it's obvious that your product only costs $20 to manufacture, even that, because giving you examples that you have a fulsome understanding. Now, I love coconut oil. I like cold pressed coconut oil, and because I use it on my skin, etc., etc. Right, on my hair, blah blah blah. Now, whenever I go to like a Price Mart and I see the cold pressed oil, or I go to the Jamaican manufacturers of the cold pressed coconut oil, it's normally in the 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 range. And I was like, hey, could not be so expensive. Why is this thing so expensive? So what Opal decided to do was to go home and try to make it herself. I got the coconuts. I did everything that I saw on YouTube, and I got like 3 ounces of coconut oil out of it. After that, I'm not complaining anymore. I'm spending the $3,000 for it, because when I make it, I only got 2 ounces, and I'm sure I spent a lot of money on it. You understand what I'm saying? So therefore, you have to understand that when a customer sees that the manufacturing of this should make you be charging $30,000 for it, or the manufacturing of it should make you be charging more, then that is how you have to understand the value and then price accordingly. All right, so that is a psychological pricing. I hope everybody got understood that based on the examples that I use. Now, with pricing, guys, I spend a lot of time talking about the value, because the perceived value is what the client will be willing to pay for the product. And we're not just here to talk, we're here to really have you to think about your company. Think about what it is that you are doing, and then see how can I transform, improve upon my company, my production, my product, my benefits, and subsequently my value to my customers, so that they are willing to pay asking. Right here, and I love this. It says, ask yourself the question, does your company generate value? If not, don't worry about pricing. As first. What this means, come off drawing board and see how you, because people are not going to buy your product if they are not able to see the value. If you cannot see the value, trust me, your customers are not going to be able to see it either. So you have to ask yourself a very profound question. Does my company generate value? And guys, your company generating value is not Your company generating value is not what you think, is what your customer think. And it's not just any customer. It is your target audience. Because you can go to somebody who is not in your target audience and ask them if they think that this your product values this, and they tell you no, because they're not your target. They're not who you're supposed to be going after. If Scotia Private Client Group go to a customer and say, "Oh, we're charging $500 a month," and the customer go, "What? That's not their customer." When they go to the customer and say, "This is what we're offering you and we're charging you $500," they say, "Of course, bring it on." That's your target audience. If you are going after a customer, the customer keeps questioning your price, it means one, they're not able to see the value, or two, they're not your customer at all. So the rudiments of business, guys, is so critical and exciting when you're building out your company, because you have to make sure that your target audience is spot on. All right. And as they say, if they're not able to see the value, then you have to go back to the drawing board and say, how can I create this value? And going back to the drawing board also means, let me have a conversation with my target audience. Let me set up some some focus groups. Let me do some customer development strategies. Let me do some product development strategies in order to get my product to a place where persons are going to see the value. Now, I know a lot of you might go to a lot of the Konoko trade shows and the different pop-up shops here in Jamaica. But guys, when you step into the space and you see the amount of persons who are manufacturing soaps and oils and cosmetic products, it is very difficult. It's so difficult, because it's either they use hemp or they use this or they use that, but there's very little differentiation. And now when you want to step into the space of export, how are you going to differentiate your product when you go overseas, where even the cost of production is lower? So you have to step back and say to yourself, how am I creating this value? Now, let me give you another example. Look at Amazon. Amazon is not doing anything genius. They sell from a pin to an anchor. They do nothing genius in terms of their products. Do you know where their genius lies? The genius lies in their logistics and distribution. That is the value that we all see when we buy from Amazon. So we go on Amazon, we buy a product, in 3 days' time, it is actually, that is the value. And that is why you're willing to pay for it. Also, look at Ship Me or whatever courier service, because they're able to get your product and bring it up. You're willing to pay that because you see the value in what they're doing. Otherwise, you have to go call a friend, find out when they're coming down, make them throw it in them suitcase. And with COVID and all of those things in recent times, people weren't traveling as often as they would, or you'd have to wait on somebody to come down for you to get your product. In 3 to 5 days time, you get your product. Guys, that's the value. So look at the product that you're offering. The value doesn't have to necessarily be in the product itself, but it has to be in the offering. So Amazon is not selling any unique product, but they're selling a logistic and distribution network that is second to none. And so you're willing to pay the value. Now, if you decide that you're generating the self, does it save my client money? Does it make my client money? Does it increase my customer satisfaction? Does it reduce risk? Does it save time? Does it create new insights? Does it accelerate a process? Does it improve performance? Does it increase quality? Does it remove frustration? Does it offer a non-monetary value? Everybody in this group today, guys, as we transition into creating amazing companies that can shift that needle for economic activity in Jamaica, ask yourself these questions. And if the answer is no, guess what? We have to go back to the table. We have to go back to the drawing board, because it is only in your customer seeing that perceived value that they're able to then pay for it, right? So guys, I can't urge you enough. This is just so important, right? And finally, this was something that I saw what in my research is a shark, it's called a shark bite problem on a mosquito scale. And this is how I want us to transform our businesses. If you find customers with a shark bite problem, they'll be happy to pay a lot to solve their problem. But unfortunately, this problem does not often occur. In other words, you found yourself a business, but not a sizable market. Think about a shark bite problem. You found a business, but it's not a sizable market. Now, let's look at a mosquito bite problem. A mosquito bite problem often occurs in the summer, but has little impact. You can live with it. You can live with a mosquito bite, apart from when it gives you chicken, go in there and zig zig. The problem is widespread, but the issue is so small that consumers, although annoying, are not willing to spend a lot of money on it. So the question is, how do we strike that balance? So doing nothing is the most common response. In other words, you found a sizable market, but not a viable business. That's what the mosquito bite. Like most new technologies, the real competition is in the inertia of the status quo. The challenge for any business is to discover a deep need. Guys, I can't say this enough. To discover a deep need within a sizable market where customers are willing to pay for a solution. And that is the essence of pricing. You have to have a problem, you have to have a solution, and you have to have the customers must see the perceived value in the solution for them to willing to pay for it. So you understand your cost. You understand the markup, you have to then value that you're bringing. Because at the end of the day, guys, you don't want a business that's just breaking even. You want a business that will be able to cause you to innovate and grow. And it's not, there's not all this dependence on grants and all of these things, but your company is generating the requisite revenue to get you to that space. All right. So that's it for my presentation in terms of me talking. Now I'm opening up the floor for any questions that you might have. And I know it was a lot to take in, but I really hope that you're able to assimilate, what I have imparted, and any questions you have, please don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you so much, Opal, for that very informative presentation. I just want to apologize profusely to our audience members. One or two of them indicated that they were not able to hear because of the in and out, and I had to say to them, that it was because of the Wi-Fi service, really. But we thank you for staying with us, and we now invite you to really ask any questions that you have. I see a hand pop up very quickly right there. So Paulette, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you and ask you to go ahead with your question.
Good morning. Thank you, Ms. Levy. I had some problems hearing, but I do understand why I was querying it is because I'm in the country and my reception in the country isn't all that either. So I wasn't sure if it was me. But I heard it as well because this is a challenge that I'm having, the whole pricing issue. And I had written in the chat, Miss Levy was talking about the value to customers, but how do you price when you know there's a need? I guess you want to address the need. However, persons are not willing to pay for that. And I say that in terms of health. I know some persons will say, you know, if you're in the right area, then persons will pay. But I'm not, for health, I find it feels almost like, you know, it's needed, you know, the need is there, but persons are not willing to pay for it, or don't believe that they should pay so much for it. In truth and fact, it should really cost more than we are charging.
Okay, Paula, that's such an important question, and I'm so sorry that you weren't able to hear me so well. I'm so sorry. So a number of things, and I think you alluded to one of them. So, Paula, the truth is, although health is important, not everybody understands the importance of health. So you have to put that in your pipe and smoke it. Though health is important, not everybody understands the importance of health. So where Opal, in my case, I can speak to me. I am a vegan. And so when I go to the supermarket and I pick up products, my mother look at me and she shake her head and she goes like, why are you spending so much money? And I'm like, because I am concerned about my health. So in a nutshell, sweetheart, what is happening, Paulette, is that you have to identify, and that's the hard part of business. You have to go and find who are those customers who are willing to pay for the product that you're selling. Then you have to understand what is important to them. You have to then understand that they try to understand through dialogue with them what is that value that they perceive on the product that you're offering. I'm not sure what product you're offering, so I'm just loosely talking about health. But I pay a lot of money for soaps because I'm not going to use any soap on my body, again, because of health. All right? So therefore, it is so important for us to understand, Paulette, that your target market is one of the most important things in business. You have to identify who that is, and they will see the value. Otherwise, person's not going to pay for it. So you have to go after your target market. Mm-hmm.
That's it right there, Opal. And you did say that in your presentation. I know I heard it when you started way up at the top part of it, where you said, you know, it's the customer's perceived value, whatever they see as valuable. So healthcare is not something that you're unwilling to pay for because it's too expensive. But if your health values enough to you, you are going to pay for what you need to pay for. So it comes down to that perceived value. And it also comes down to another thing that you also said, everybody is not your customer. I know I heard that. I hope it's not something that coming out of my head, but I know I heard you say that. Everybody.
Yeah, man, that's true.
Cool. Mm-hmm. I was listening. All right. We have another hand up. Leith Forrester James. I'm going to open your mic and you go ahead with the question.
Thank you. I am really thankful for these sessions, these training, because for me, my product too is also geared around health. I'm about eating right, but what I do for myself, I would love to have my customer doing it and get the benefits. However, I scout the market, and I have the market there, especially in Canada and the UK. What I do find is that the UK, they protect their almighty pounds. They want to spend penny pennies for whatever product they can get. So I find that the raw material, I'm about sauces, seasoning and sauces. I develop healthy seasoning and sauces from all naturally grown spices and herbs. There's no artificial preservative and additives in there. And I have been doing it for the past couple of years. So I have scouted the market, and I am now preparing. JBDC knows about me and helping me to get there. But I find a challenging part of the project now, where the price of raw material are so high. Farmers want a high price. So what I started doing, I am growing, I'm putting in right now on my land some of the core items that I can buy from myself cheaply, such as like turmeric, ginger, and so forth. So that is what I find that will help me to keep my cost at a place where my customer will, and I will also earn a profit. Don't know if I'm doing the right thing.
Okay, Mrs. Forrester James, you are, so in the whole manufacturing of your product, you see, you always have to find the best possible price. So you have to make sure you develop a supply chain that is solid. All right. Now, so although you're selling an organic product, it doesn't mean that it's going to go to the market at a ridiculously expensive price. So I'm just going to take my product from anybody. Sourcing is so important, eh? So you have to make sure you source. And as you said, if you can't source it at a good price, what you then have to do now is to maybe go into the production of it yourself. So you're doing some backward integration where you're planting your thing yourself so you can get your raw materials to go into your business. But it is critical. Sourcing is very, very important to any manufacturing process. You have to get quality and you have to get it at the right price. Because at the end of the day, you remember that you have to have your cost plus your margin plus the perceived value. So if the cost of production is way too high, when you add your margin plus the perceived value, nobody's going to want to buy it. So we have to put everything into context as we're thinking through this process to make sure that we're getting the very best raw material at the very best price. We're making the very best product that we can based on how we're positioning our product. And then we put on our margin and then we go now to look at what is that value that persons perceive. No, you talk about the UK, final point, talk about the UK and them holding on to their pounds. It might be, again, that the product is not perceived of the value. That is why they're crying down your price. You understand? So you have to look at the market, do some scouting out also of other products that are similar to yours and see what that price is. And then you might have to do some fair positioning, which is one of the pricing strategies that we looked at. All right.
Great. Thank you so much, Opal. Very good response to her question right there. There is another question in the chat. Let me just respond to that. Thank you for coming, Janelle Lane. We appreciate it. There was a question from Donovan McLaren asking if JBDC offers product and service development pricing for small businesses. We support small businesses, micro and small business at any level that they're at in terms of whether it's development, whether you're just starting up or you're on a growth trajectory. So what you have to do is give us a call or send us an email, info@jbdc.net. That's info@jbdc.net. And we can put you in touch with a business development officer who will be able to assess where you are and see what kind of support you need. All right. Also, we want to just bring to the attention of the audience that I have posted the evaluation form for today's session in the chat, and we're asking you please to just leave your thoughts with us. We want to know how you felt about today's session and what you'd like to see happening on the JBDC Virtual Biz Zone in the future. All right, Kemar Valentine, it's your time. We've unmuted you and you can go ahead with your question.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I just want to say thumbs up to JBDC and the company as well. They're doing a wonderful job, EVJ. So far, I have observed the market that you have to, as you said, scout out, you have to look around. Location is very important. You could be in one location and it's not working at that location. You could check out other locations. I have learned that in business as well. I'm just going to use an example. Like, for instance, I'm in electronics. We sell phones, laptops, tablets, and other gadgets. So I will market something. So for instance, I will market something down in Ocho Rios. And very few customers would participate based on the price. And then I would market something over there in Kingston, and then you get a lot of feedbacks. People are just purchasing the items without asking for a discount, and they're just purchasing the items for whatever price they see. Not sure if it's the need of that area, but I find it that there are certain places you put your products and you don't get that feedback. So whenever you find where you're getting that feedback, try to work with that niche. So locations, very important, and you can tap into that for better marketing as well. Not really a question, but more of a suggestion.
Oh, okay, Kemar, let me just opine on it to Kemar. The situation that you described a while ago wasn't a place problem, it was a people problem. Again, looking at your target audience. So you remember you said that you went to Ocho Rios and you didn't sell, you went to Kingston and you sell, but it's not the location that caused it, it was the people who bought from you. So what you have to do though, you see, is that you have to understand based on the products that you're selling, who are the persons who are going to be interested in it. And those are the people you're going to go after. Remember, Amazon does not have a physical location that people walk in to buy, right? They just logistically distribute. So location is really what is really not what you're talking about right now. What you're talking about is your target audience. And guys, I don't want us to miss it because a lot of people always miss it. Your target audience is critical to your success. Okay, Kemar? So make sure that when you, not because you're selling tablets and phones and you think is that everybody is going to jump on board and want to buy. No, no, no. So sorry about that, Kemar. I dropped off. I have to pray for flow because I have both and they both be a one. So I hope you understand what I'm saying, Kemar. So we have to focus on your target audience. So here, that is critical to your success. All right, cool, thanks.
All right, thanks so much, Opal. And just for the benefit of the persons in the chat, the email address that you need to send your request to is info at jbdc.net. Opal, I wanted to ask a question. This is something I've always wondered. And before I ask my question, I just want to say that I'm happy that you struck the link. You built that link between marketing and pricing, which is very, very important. For me, everything comes right back to marketing, everything that you do, because I'm a marketer. So, I mean, I'm going to lean towards that. But I believe that everything you do in the business comes back to marketing. So I love the fact that you made the link between marketing and pricing, but also sweat equity. How do you put that into your costing or your pricing strategy? Opal? Did we lose her again?
Sansia, I am so sorry. I'm not sure what's happening. Sansia, are you hearing me?
Yes.
I am so sorry. I heard, how do you put sweat equity into your your pricing structure? Well, it all depends. So as if I am working in an organization and I make soaps, right? I have to be able to allocate a particular price for my time. So you can either do it by comparing yourself. That when I was working in corporate Jamaica, I used to work $12,000 an hour. Now that I'm working in my business, I want to earn $6,000 an hour. So you incorporate that $6,000 per hour into your pricing strategy. All right. But you have to assign. A lot of people leave that out. So that's an excellent question. So you have to be able to understand what is your value to the organization and price it into. Now, just starting up, obviously, because you're just stepping into the space and stuff, you might want to start out at a reduced cost and then you gradually add on it over a period of time. But that's what you need to do. You have to make sure that you incorporate your labor costs into your product, because a lot of people leave it out and you have to put it in. It is critical.
That's one of the reasons why I asked the question, Opal, because a lot of times I've found that people just think of the margin in terms of how much do I need to sell this for to make back the money that I spent, but they don't think about the fact that they put in some value added services. So yes, I bought the soap and I'm going to I buy the soap to sell it back. But when I come up with the idea to say, okay, I'm going to put the soap and the lotion together and put it in a basket and package it and so on, it's not just the cost of those items or the margin on the cost of those items, but it is definitely the idea that you come up with. And yes, 10 other people come up with the idea too, but it depends on the soap and the lotion that you put together and who you're targeting, and will they be willing to pay that package price for what you're offering. All right, so I'm going to give Kadeen Harvey an opportunity to ask her question. So Kadeen, go ahead.
Hi, morning. Hi, Opal. Very good presentation. Very good. I mean, very informative. My question is, let's say now that I have been using the cost plus pricing for my products and services, and now after this training, I want to go to value-based pricing. So when I look at what I've been offering now, and then I look at value, the value-based pricing, my product is now 2 or 3 times the amount that what I used to charge. How do I know? And that is a scary, to me, a scary position to be in. It's like, oh my God, it's going to be too much to just jump from 10 to 15 or 10 to 20. How do I know price it and to get it? No, what's the strategy? What do I do at that point? Do I gradually increase, or do I just make that big jump? Tomorrow morning I just do that.
All right. Okay, Kadeen, good to hear from you. Okay, so a number of things, Kadeen. All right, and I'm trying not to be too personal because I know Kadeen's company very well. But okay, so to try to be as general as possible. So okay, so how did you ascertain your perceived value to be twice the price that you're selling it for? It would have been that you would have been communicating with persons and they're saying, boy, this is the value that we're willing to pay for this, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Who are those persons?
Customers.
Right.
So the customers determine that.
All right. So therefore, there are a set of persons who believe that the perceived value of your product is X.
Right.
That set of persons, those set of persons, that's your target audience. So what you have to now do is to restructure. We spoke about it in the presentation, is that you have to restructure and retweak your marketing and your branding activities to go after the persons who will be willing to pay for that item. So if you say for example, your perceived value is now 20,000 Kadeen, right? And you're selling it to the same customers that you have now, you're going to kill your sales, because they are not the ones who understand the value, the perceived value. So you have to rebranding in how you engage on social media, the English that is communicated, the accuracy in your grammar, the how you present yourself, everything is wrapped up in how you're going to market and bring that that product into the space of your target audience. Also, through an identification of who these persons are. So what you need to do, are we stepping out of the space of pricing now, but you step into the space of how do you identify that avatar? What are the characteristics of that target audience to create your avatar? And then you go after them. So you say, okay, so my avatar are persons within corporate Jamaica who has a disposable income of 7.2 million to 13.5 million per annum. If that is your target audience based on the persons who are telling you perceived value is, that's who you need to market to. There's another part of the presentation that I wanted to do, but I didn't have the time, but it had to do with your pricing and and adjusting your pricing to meet your target audience. It might drop the number of customers that you have, but the amount that you now charge and the customers that you now have, which are those who are seeing the real value, works out to more than you were selling to all of these persons before. So I hope I have made sense with it, Kadeen, because it's a little tricky, but it is really looking at rebranding, remarketing, and retargeting your target audience to ensure that you're selling the product to the right person. Because if there's a perceived value that it is twice that price, that means that there is an audience that is willing to buy it at that price. So go after them.
Yes, so you made sense and you made dollars too. Thank you. Thank
yeah,
you.
Man, so you're going to make more money because you're going after the people that really matter.
All right.
Guys, don't prostitute your products, you know. Don't prostitute your products. Not because you want to sell means that you're just going to put on a price on it. Have you ever seen any Kadeen's products, the fruit bouquets? They are amazing.
Oh,
and yes, I mean, I'm not supposed to bigger up on the thing, but they are amazing. So are you going, yeah, man, are you going after the right market, Kadeen? That's what you need to look at. And if you're not, then we now need to look at how do we readjust and go after the right people, because the right people will buy it. And Lisa talk about, Lee Forrester, sorry, spoke about health and health products. There are people who don't want the basket with the wine and the chocolate and the biscuit and everything anymore. They now want fruits. They want something that is healthy. Your target is out there, girl. Just go after it.
Yeah.
But you have to do the work.
That's true. That's true. All right. So here's another question for you, Opal. How do you calculate that labor cost in pricing? Also, how do you incorporate the sourcing of raw material when you have multiple or not enough suppliers or a key ingredient for the product? So that's a whole mouthful.
That's a loaded question though. That's a loaded question. And that it has a lot of parts. We might take the remaining 30 minutes to answer that. So that's I think Shansa, you might have to take that person offline to have that conversation, because that's very deep. In terms of your pricing of your raw materials, you have to look at the strategy, or look at what is your product. Say, for example, you're doing lotion, and I'm not sure what you're doing, but say you're doing lotion, right? You look at the quantity of all of the raw materials that you would have put into the production of the lotion, right? And then based on the amount of output, you divide it through in order to ascertain your total cost of raw materials. Now, if that cost works out when you add your margin and you add your perceived value, it works out too high, it means you have to step back into the space to say, how do I resource? How can I, that's two different, that's re-hyphen source. How do I go back into the space to then say, how can I find a farmer who is selling me rosemary at a cheaper price? Or if I buy rosemary in larger quantities, can I get a bulk discount, and can I freeze the rosemary? So it's a very loaded question, but it's a lot of work. You have to look specifically at your company, what it is that you're doing, and then see how we can price to make sure that we are operating, you're coming out at your optimal cost, the best cost possible for you to add your margin and then to add the value-based pricing to it. In terms of your labor cost, is the same thing. You look at the amount of hours that you put into the manufacturing of 12, 120, whatever it is that you do, and you divide that through to get the amount that is that you contribute to the manufacturing of each product. So you can look at it that way, or you can also look at it through your margin. So if you say I'm going to do a 35% margin, then your margin need to be also factored in. Your salary need to be factored into your margin. But to be honest with you, Sansi, I'm not sure who asked that question, but I think that person, we need to take the person offline, and maybe one of your consultants can take her offline and help her to break down that costing for them. But that's a lot.
Yeah, that's one of the suggestions that I'm about to make. So Shanice, just send us your contact information, and I will have ask a business development officer to make contact with you so that you can have this conversation with them, because this one you're deep, right? All right, so I'm looking and I'm not seeing any more questions at the moment. So at this point, Opal, I'm just gonna ask you for your final comments. Shanice, drop your contact in the chat before you tell me thank you and goodbye. So any final comments, Opal, before we go?
Yeah, I thank you so much. I mean, the questions were quite insightful. Remember now the essence of what we
One sec, Opal, are you still there?
we've just spoke.
Opal?
Yes, I'm still here.
Right.
Yes,
right.
I'm still here.
So I see a hand popped up. Leith, I'm gonna give you a chance. 10 seconds to ask the question, and then Opal, you can respond. Go ahead, Leith.
I think this session needs another leg. There's a lot coming out here, and I think it needs another leg. This is too short for this. This part is very important to take us to the market. I am pleading to JBDC to give us another round of this. Please.
Mrs. Forrester James, oh my God, and everybody begins to agree. But let me tell you, these sessions are meant to stimulate the thought process of entrepreneurship. And so what we have to do is to just bring it, tease it, and then ask you to just make contact with our business development officers to continue the conversation. Because if when we did marketing and financing earlier in the year and we kept bringing them back, then we wouldn't get to this point. I will have another exciting series that is going to be coming up next month in August. So we'll think about bringing it back later after we do the sessions that we'll have coming up. But please, if you have any questions, anything that we can do in terms of a follow-up where this is concerned, just drop your contact information in the chat and put underneath it, need further assistance or need further support, and we'll have a BDO making contact with you. All right, Leith and Trevinia, that I see in the chat saying, please, please, please. Yes, we're going to do it, but we want you to make contact with our BDOs, because that is where you're going to get the support that you need, that one-to-one support that you need. And remember, JBDC as a government agency, we can't and don't charge a market rate. Your initial consultation is absolutely free. All you have to do is give us a call, 876-928-5161. It goes up to 5. And we have offices across the island. We're just completing our business beyond town marketing campaign, where we're telling all of our audiences where we are across the island, Mandeville, St. Thomas, St. Anne, Westmoreland. We have offices in all of these locations. So you don't have to worry that when you contact us and if you can't travel come to Kingston, you won't be able to access our services. We are available somewhere near you. So just send in that information. Shrevenia, I see your information. Khalil, I see yours as well. And I'm going to pass it on to the relevant authority. All right, Opal, it's over to you for those final words now.
Oh, okay, guys. And again, wow, this is so exciting. Leith, you're right. We really need to really bring it home. So, guys, just remember pricing. There's a strategy. Identify your target market. Understand who you're targeting. Critical. You're not targeting everybody. Understand who your target market is. Communicate with your target market. Let them understand what it is that you're offering and help them to help and let them communicate to you what they think your perceived value is. Secondly, source well. Make sure you're getting good products at quality products at good prices. When you do your cost plus pricing, make sure that you add your percentage markup and then you add your value base. Involve your customers. That's critical in the process. Involve your customers. And guys, if you get that right, you're on the path for success. But work hard, do a lot of reading, talk to your customers, talk to your customers, talk to your customers, and you'll be on the right path. And get your help from JBDC. They're so happy to help you. So work with them and they will get you to the next level. Thanks again so much. Thank you, JBDC, for having me. It was a pleasure and I have so much fun. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much, Opal. And you don't know that you're one of my favorites. So you know we're going to be calling you again very soon. So thank you so much for coming and sharing in such an informative session. We can see from the chat that it really hit the spot in quite a number of ways. We are really grateful for everyone that joined us this morning and certainly to you for joining us as well. Just to remind everyone, the session is recorded, so you can access it on YouTube. Please remember to fill out our evaluation form. We want to know how today's session was and what you want to see in the future. I saw somebody type in the chat, when we're doing a session on marketing, we actually did one earlier. I think it was last month, we did something on digitization and e-commerce. And there are so many prongs involved in marketing nowadays, so many elements. So you know that we're going to explore it again. So you don't have to worry, we're coming back with something very soon. Next month, so today is the end of our series on business strategy. Come next month, which is August, our session moves, we're going to be doing a theme on entrepreneurs' mindset, the entrepreneurial mindset. So watch out for the dates and the themes and make sure you join us. Again, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And as I said before, follow us on YouTube so that when the session is published, you can get a chance to watch it first. Follow us also on all social media, JBDC at JBDC Jamaica on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're on all of those platforms and you can you'll find us there. Also send us an email, info@jbdc.net, or call us at 876-928-5161 and it goes up to 5. It was my pleasure being your host this morning. Thank you so much for joining us and see you next month.